money in China have always been fiat from the start, from antiquity, and they were using seashell, curry, that we called, and even when they ran out of curries, like it was like too rare to be used as money in their system, they were creating curries in bronze to just to mimic the original curries, and it was not more worth more or less. It was exactly the same thing, and the prince or the authority didn't even have the a monopolistic. They were not the only one who could create those coin. They didn't even have to be stamped. They just a round coin of bronze or copper with a hole in it would be money and would be accepted by everyone by law, and it was not linked at all with the worth of the metal it was used. And we have one proof of that is when the copper price went up for some reason, they would just they would just cut the outside to make two coins out of one, because it was not economically feasible to keep. By the way, those are mold. They were not stamped. They are mold. They were they would put heat and mold the metal and cast. Were sorry, they were cast. They were corn. Those corn were cast. So during centuries and millennium, the this money was purely fiat, and the worth of each coin would be basically decided by the size of the economy. So if that's about it. It would when the economy was really producing a lot of goods, well, the coins would be worth a bit less because it was they were no a bit more. I always end up mixing those two those two charts. Well, basically, they would the value of the coin would just fluctuate with the productivity of the economy and the I guess the production of those coin. And sometimes they would not have enough metal to supply the whole economy. And one last thing about China, they were not using gold at all, because if they would use gold as coin, they would be automatically thesaurized, like kept for their value, and they were not even using it for external commerce. They were using silk for external commerce. So they had really a problem with gold. They would never make coins with gold, and that's from antiquity to Middle Age. Very recently, they would never use um, gold coins because they had fear that it would stop the economy, because people would keep the coins because they are worth something. So their coins was by design made to not worth almost anything, just to have more coin circulate in the economy. That's really a fiat way to think. So the point here why I'm talking about China is that that's a point in the way of the credit theorists of money, because we have an example of a great society that based their economy in a fiat coin that was worth nothing. It was just the size of the economy that were deciding its value. And oh, by the way, I found the third thing I wanted to talk about earlier. It was those society without money. Yeah. It's sorry, I'm jumping to and I'm changing the subject right there, but I don't want to forget it. It's just that we had two examples of societies. We have the Spartans, and we have the Incas in Mesoamerica that were not using money. The Incas had a lot of gold, but they didn't have money. They didn't have a monetary system, and that's what we can say about it is that it was a very hierarchical society that could survive, that could function without money. I guess they were really centralized. And the Spartan, an even better example, because the economy of Sparta was working with those elots, I think the name, those slaves, and they like the citizens were like I think like 1% of the population, very small group of people, so they were able to live without money. Well, basically they had some money, but it was really really big ingots of I think it's not silver, but maybe silver or some sort of metals that were using money, but it was really big and didn't wanted to use it in commerce. It was like just some kind of reserve of value or something like that. But what we can see here is that it was a really small society, like the scribes in Mesopotamia, that were living without money because they had slaves, and they were a group small enough to know what each other owe to each other. It was not a big society like let's say Athens, that Athens to function like a free society, like they were like democracy with a lot of people. They had to have money, so we can see there more the commodity the theory there on the Athens side, and more the credit theory of money on the Spartan side, that were not using coins. Basically, they had some sort of big money that was not really useful in commerce, but they didn't have coins in those days. So all those historical examples, shows that we can see money, the emergence of money on with both views: commodity of money on one side, and credit tier money on the other side. So we don't really know who's right or and who's wrong.
Yeah, it makes the whole thing even more complicated now.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just more complicated always.
And it's also, it shows that, as you said, a society, a system can work on a fiat system.
Yes.
I mean, we also see that kind of now. We have a fiat money, and we are living like
Yep.
we are doing things. We are developing smartphones, AI. We are progressing humanity forward. So it's not like we are going backwards. I mean, we as Bitcoin argue sometimes that we
Yep.
go in
But
some particular.
the
But yeah,
point the point is here is that the credit theory of money theorist would argue that, fiat is the right system because it started as fiat, and I disagree with that. It's not really. I mean, they use that as like, yeah, all these gold is an old system. It's not. It limit us. That's what they try to tell us, and I don't think it's true. So they're using like this. The confusion in the emergence, the way money emerged, as a proof that we should use fiat system because it started like that. But I disagree, because in Sparta, we can look at history to have those answers. In Sparta, the society did crumble because at one battle, the too many citizens died, and their whole society collapsed because they had an elite, a very small number of people, and when they got destabilized by one battle, it did collapse. So nobody had like some wealth stored to restart or so they just completely disappeared. So that's a risk. If you concentrate, if you centralize the power to just a very few people, you're gonna end up dead at some point. If there's it's not resilient. Okay, so compared to Athens, that had money and democracy and a lot of way more citizens, they got almost, I guess they lost a lot of battle against Sparta and Persians, and still exist. Well, the heritage, the Greek heritage, the Athens heritage still live today, because I think it was a more resilient society because they were mostly free, because the citizens were free, and they had money. And by the way, Spartans were not free. They were brought to a barrack, like is that a right word? Well, a military house at the age of 6, up to their majority at 18 years old, and they lived with their citizen friends their military friends for most of their lives, and then they were sent to war. They were not free. They had to be on those military building to concentrate of the value of the Spartan. So that's what you have here. You have the money on one side, like I would say real money, that emerge from let's say a commodity, like more hard money on one side with free societies, and you have on the other side like some kind of credit or informal credit or fiat here with centralized planners in Mesopotamia, in Spartan history, the Incas, like that more hierarchical societies that don't need money because the way they're built, and you don't have free people that much free people there, and it's not as resilient as the just simple use of money and in society like let's say Athens. That's really great example of those two opposing views. So the one other point I want to make sure we talk about before we quit, we stop later, is the way we can merge those two theories.
Yeah, like and also I think I don't know if that suits in here, but like you also wanted to talk about the Lynn Alden theory.
Yeah,
That maybe it fits nicely, like how those two things merge, and how does Lynn
that's
Alden explain it?
exactly where I wanted to go. So there's two way I think to unify those two theories, the commodity theory of money and the credit theory of money. Um, it's really well described by Lynn Adel in her book Broken Money. There's a chapter 4, I think, that is dedicated to that. So what she tells us here is that money is simply a ledger. Okay, like commodity money is a ledger. So the ledger is who owns what. That's the ledger. If you own a coin of gold, so it's a like natural ledger that the possession of the whole, if you own one coin, well, that's kind of a natural ledger, and everybody that see you with the coin know that the coin is to you, is yours. And on the credit area money sides, it's like a more a formal ledger, like it could be scriptural money in bank accounts, or informal credit in a smaller tribe or primitive tribe. So both of those systems are ledger, and she basically just say that on one side, the creation of new units is managed by an authority. So in the credit area money, it's the authority or the monetary system manager that decide if we create more or not, more units. Or and on the commodity theory of money side, well, they would say, we could say that it's nature that is limiting the creation of new unit. You have to mine gold to have new unit. And let's say on Bitcoin, well, it's the algorithm, it's mathematics that it's the code that decide what how many more units we can create. And in Bitcoin, the position of coins are decided by the ledger, the digital ledger that says that this key home by the owner of the private key own that Bitcoin. Is as simple as that. So we can see that those three systems, we can have Bitcoin on one side, we can have gold on the other, on another side of that, and we have fiat there, and those three things can be seen as a ledger. And it's on different the what differentiate them is who controls who creates who can create new units. That's the point of view of Lynn. My point of view, I can add to that, is more on the how we value those different type of money. I don't see any difference in how we value fiat and gold. That's a very bold statement. For me, it's the exact same thing. It's because a lot of commodity money theorists would say, well, gold is physical, I can see it, it's great, it shines, we can do like we I could uh, create a something to eat soup, sorry, a spoon out of it to create to eat my soup. It has utility. But if you analyze it in a monetary perspective for its value, it we don't care if it's fiat or if it's gold or if it's Bitcoin. It's the monetary premium, and I touched that a bit earlier. It's just a trust that you will get your value back later. With fiat, what give fiat its value? First, it's the demand to pay taxes. That's the one of the point of the MMT theories. You know, the modern monetary theorists. That's one point they have right. Well, one way to explain why fiat has value is simply that the government asks you to pay your taxes with this type of money. So people are gonna need that money. So there's demand for it. So it does create some value there. And you think when you have a fiat bill, not this one because it's completely worthless, but let's say that's a $10, a Canadian dollar. Well, I know that I'm gonna get 10 Canadian dollar value in the near future out of it. So that's some kind of trust. With Bitcoin, it's the exact same thing. You acquire some Bitcoin, and you know that at one point you're going to be able to exchange it for some goods or some services. Exact same thing with gold. Even if it's shiny or if it's physical, if you're saying that gold is has value because it has utility, you're wrong. His utility value, as I said earlier, is about 10% of its stock. If it would only be used in industries like to make computers and printed circuits, it would be worth, let's say, $300 per ounces. That doesn't explain why it has monetary value. The only explanation, the only way it gets its monetary value, it's because people acquires it to as a store of value to protect themselves from some inflation or risk of it in the economy. It's a reserve. It's a store of value that people like to buy to protect themselves from some kind of chaos. So that's we call that monetary premium, and that's a way I can unify those three type of money: Bitcoin, the credit, all those fiat credit theory money, and let's say gold, more like the commodity money theorists. Their value comes exactly from the same concept. It's called monetary premium. Yeah.
And you also mentioned the nanny state. I think we haven't touched on that when you wrote me. It was I like the word nanny state and how
Yeah.
fiat plays into that. How do you look at that?
That's a good point. So basically, what we end up today is that people in the credit money would say that we can use money like fiat money to finance the nanny states. And if we use just gold, let's say hard money, we would limit ourselves, like we would limit the economy because we would need more gold. You know, if we would end up not having enough gold, and we limit ourselves. That's a bit stupid because what happens is just that the value of the money just go up. You know, that if you operate in a fixed monetary system, you're going to get deflation. And economists don't like deflation because they think about the crash of the 30s. Well, the Great Depression. They talk about that. They think about that, but the Great Depression is not. It's deflation from a credit bubble that burst. You can have like natural deflation, like a growth deflation that we call, and it did happen at the 19th century, at the beginning, at the end of the 19th century in the in the United States, and there was a pause in the middle because they had a civil war, unfortunately, but yeah, so what happened there is the production got went up, and they were on a gold standard, so we had deflation, so prices expressed in gold went down. It was great because it was growth deflation, but it could be a problem because people would not want to get paid less. And by the way, that was the reason there was so much child work at that time, that child labor. I don't know it's the correct, but there was a lot of young people on the workforce because people would not want to get their salary go down. But that's just a mentality that if your salary go down but your purchasing power go up, that's perfectly fine. But I guess that at that point, we're not wired that way. That's one of the argument of people that say that we need inflation because people want to get paid more every years, but they don't realize they think they're getting paid more nominally, but not in the purchasing power. So to get back at the nanny states, the nanny state is an evolution of finance because in the at some point in the 19th century, no, sorry, the 18th century, the we invented the insurance concept in actuarial mathematics and all that. It was basically the clergy, and it was British widow basically in Scotland, that Scottish widow in Scotland. The clergy there wanted to have an insurance for all the clergy staff that would die earlier than they would, and they had to take care of their wife and child, and they invented those mathematics to know how much a priest would have to pay to get covered to have his wife and son taken care for the rest of their lives. So they invented insurance there, and as those finance technology evolved, in the end they saw that they have a moral aléa morale in French. They have there's a concept in finance that's called sorry, I'm gonna look it up. Sorry. Aléa moral, aléa moral hazard. Sorry, there's this moral hazards concept in finance. Simply put, is just that if you do an insurance, health insurance, well, people that are in bad health are going to subscribe to it, and people with good health will not subscribe. So you have and the insurer there don't really know who is in good health and who is not. So you're going to have more people with bad health that going to sign up. So one solution to that is to impose the subscription to um, health insurance to balance the thing. And with that, with all this evolution, we end up with the nanny states that impose a lot of insurance, like work insurance, unemployment insurance, health insurance. All that is evolution of finance and some way to compensate to fix the moral hazard problem. And now we have so much thing that is managed by the government that we have financial problems. We have hard times to finance all that. And a lot of people think that we could just create, well, those credit theory terrorists, credit theory of money terrorists would say that, well, we just need to print more money. That's kind of the point of the MMT, the modern theory of money. We should be able to print enough money to finance all that, and we won't suffer from inflation if though this money goes to the right sectors and that they can absorb it. That's their way. That's their view. I disagree with it because I think if the more you create money, the more you create inflation. Inflation is you can only explain inflation, not price rise. Inflation with the increasing the amount of money, because if you just if you keep the monetary mass fixed, if you have a rising price on one side, you're going to have price that's going to have to go down on some the other side, because people will have less money, more money put here, less money to put there, so it's going to balance itself. It's not said that I'm not saying that if you have a fixed monetary system, price will not go up. No, what I'm saying is that if price go up somewhere, you're going to have less demand in another sector. If your home costs more, well, you're going to have less money to go to the restaurant. That's really simple math. The only way to have the houses, energy, price of the restaurant, price in the whole economy go up is to add more money. So that's the only way you can have real inflation, because there's a difference between inflation and high rise in price. Inflation is global rise in price, and rise in price is just rise in prices in some part of the economy. So those people would say, well, we will not get inflation if the money is put at the right place and well managed. What I'm saying is that whatever you do, you're going to end up with inflation, because you add more money and people have more money to spend. And that's why in Canada that we still have inflation, even if the price of home and rents went like double or even tripled in the last like 8 years, just because people have access to credits. So they pay for restaurant and their trips and all the other thing with credit. And if we would stop the credit, the creation of new money, well, price in some sector would go down for sure, because people wouldn't have access to that money. So yeah, so that's how I could make a link between the fiat system and nanny states. Is that we need the fiat system if we want to keep the nanny state in the way it is right now. If we would have a fixed monetary system, we would have to revert to a more like insurance system, like a more normal system where people pay up for the insurance they want, not like impose the whole insurance system to everybody, and where like it's not clear or it costs and it's paid through the taxes from the people. I'm not saying it will not work, but I'm saying that the current way the system work, the only way we can keep it working like that is to print more money, and we need fiat to do that. And I'm basically against that, but I'm just explaining why those people want to print more money to keep the system alive.
Thank you for watching this video. This was only a snippet of the podcast. And if you want to watch the full episode and get all of the context of this episode, you can click right here or here. Oh, maybe also here.